Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here, coming to you today from the living room. But just wanted to make a sort of a final video or a wrap-up video for the deer load that I was working on for my buddy Richard for his Remington 700. Yeah, Remington 700, chambered in 7mm-08. We found when I went and did, so if you'll go back and kind of watch that series of videos, it was a neat process that I followed on this particular load development. It's something that I never done before. I converted brass, some 308 brass, because finding good 7mm-08 brass in stock was proving pretty difficult to do. And, you know, I could find Lapua and all that, but, you know, it's a little on the pricey side. For that, I had some really good Starline brass. Focus. So I had several pieces of Starline, some brand new Starline brass. Not brand new, it was once fired. But, you know, I'm a huge fan of Starline brass. I think they make really good brass overall, especially for the money, good value. So I wanted to use that, and I converted that from 308 down to 7mm-08. Really easy. Go back, watch the videos. Super simple conversion. Probably one of the easiest conversions you'll ever do if you're into that kind of thing. Didn't take much at all. And actually, somebody mentioned in a comment, I could have even made it easier because I didn't even think about it, but I should have removed the expander ball from my 308 die because what I did, I resized everything basically back to Sammy spec pretty much. So I gave everything a full length resize in my 308 die. Then I ran it through the 7mm-08 die to size it down, and I left the expander ball in there. That's not necessary, obviously, you know, after thinking about it. So I should have taken that out, but either way, it was super simple. And we went and fire formed the brass, and I used some Sierra Match King 130 grain bullets. And if you're interested in that performance, go check out the range day footage that I posted. I went with my buddy Robert. We went out and I fire formed the brass with that load, just a simple, it was a random load. I think it was like 41.3 grains or something like that. Might have been of accurate 4064 if I remember correctly. And it shot lights out. It shot really well. You know, overall, I think I shot the first 10 or 15 shots, I believe, with the same point of aim. And then after that, I was kind of shooting still at that point. I was just messing around. But I believe those first 10 or 15, I think the first 10 went in, it was under an inch group. And then I think the last 5-shot group that I shot there, I think it might have ended up being an inch or so, somewhere in that range. But it was really good performance for, you know, just your standard typical deer rifle, right? Really good load. So from there, you know, because I was kind of torn, all right, well, I want to choose what hunting bullet do I want to use. I had 3 different grain weight hunting bullets chosen from Speer, had 130, 145, and 160 grain. Richard told me he was shooting around, I think 140 grain is what this rifle is, what he'd been shooting in the past, maybe 139, 140, somewhere in that range. And so I was torn between the 130 Speer and the 145. And after seeing the performance of the 130 grain Match King, I was like, man, maybe this rifle really likes the 130 grain bullets. And so I loaded some of those up with Ramshot Big Game. That's the powder that we ended up going with. And we're using S&B large rifle primers. So loaded those up, went out to the range, shot some groups, tested some loads in the 44 grain range, 44 grains up to, I didn't want to push it too hard. I didn't This is not like the 30-06 load that I worked up for him for his elk hunt coming up. In that particular load, we had some parameters that we just had to hit, like some non-negotiables, things that we really needed to do to be able to pretty much know, without a doubt, hey, this thing is going to perform out to a certain distance. So we had, distance requirements, we have velocity requirements because we're trying to deliver a certain amount of energy on an elk size game. Obviously we had accuracy requirements if we're shooting out even further. A lot of factors came into play on that load. So we had to dig pretty deep on that one. And we came up with a great load for it though. And I think it's going to be a solid performer. He's getting geared up for his elk hunt. He actually sent me a picture the other day of his performance, and couldn't be happier with the way he tested the 30-06. Shot a couple at 100. They were almost touching, and then he backed target up to 200. Shot another one, almost bullseye. He was slightly high because the way we have the scope set up, he's still a little bit high at 200 yards. But just great performance, so I couldn't be happier for that. But this rifle's basically, what we were looking for was, sub MOA, 3-shot group is what we're looking for out of this rifle. We're not pushing velocity to the max. We're not trying to generate pressure problems or any type of issues whatsoever. We were just wanting a good, solid deer killing machine load. That's what we were wanting. So that's what we got here. Tested in the 44 grain range up to 44.6 grains. 44.6 grains ended up being our best performing 3-shot group. 44 grains and kind of on the lower side there around that 44 grain mark. We didn't really have great performance, but the higher we went up in our charge weight, the better we shot with 44.6. That was kind of where I wanted to sort of cap it there. And that ended up being our best group. It came in at 0.8 inches. So I went back, loaded up some rounds again to come back and just validate and verify, yes, what I'm seeing is actual, true performance of the load. So retested everything, and these were the groups that we came up with. These were, that was our tightest there. So we came back, it was right at 0.8 inches again on the 44.6 grain load. The 44.3 grain load, it was just a little bit larger. It ended up being 0.9. And so with the duplication of performance on the 44.6 grain load, that's what we went with. I then went back, loaded up more of that same load to capture some velocity. Don't worry about all this junk in the middle. This is 44 Rim Mag, so don't even look at any of that. And that's 357 Magnum. So all the other shots are on different target. But this was just kind of the final. This is what sealed the deal here to, we were able to duplicate the performance. So that's what we settled on, was the Speer 130 grain Spitzer boat tail with 44.6 grains of ram shot big game. So we're using the same powders between his 30-06 load and his 7mm-08 load. So that's good. That was kind of something I was wanting to do, sort of make sure I could work up a good load using the same powder, and then move forward. That way in the future, if he's wanting me to work up more, I'll already have the recipes dialed in, and we can just call on that information in the future. Just validate it that it's still performing well, and then load up the ammo again. So got him 40 rounds loaded up, so a couple boxes of ammo there. But this rifle is really sweet. This Remington 700, this is, I would imagine, because of the age of the rifle, from what he was telling me, this is back when Remington actually made a good rifle. So I know, a lot of people hate on Remington now. Their quality has gone downhill big time. But this is definitely one. This is such a sweet shooting rifle. Man, if you can get your hands on an older Remington 700, you're going to have a solid rifle, just from my experience. So really, really nice rifle. The action on it is just, extremely smooth. He's got a really nice Leupold scope on it too, by the way. These things are pretty sharp. If you're looking for a good optic, especially hunting optic, it's got a really nice duplex reticle, which is great for hunting purposes. So really solid performer. We're on our velocity. We didn't push it, we weren't too crazy. When I went back and captured velocity data, we're around 2850. So we're definitely not setting the world on fire by any means. You could push this cartridge, faster if you wanted to, if you needed to. In this case, we don't need to. We're going to be delivering plenty of energy out beyond. I ran the numbers on it. I mean, as far as he's going to want to shoot a deer, I think he was telling me maybe a couple hundred yards is as far as he's probably going to take a shot on a deer with this rifle. That's more than enough. All he's got to do with the way our scope is dialed in and set up, he's just basically going to pretty much hold on the vitals at 200 yards, and he's going to be right on the money. So this is going to be a great performer on deer coming up this fall. So I'm looking forward to getting some photos from him on. This dude shoots some massive deer too, by the way. So I'm really pumped about this hunting season coming up. Not just for me personally, but I'm really wanting to see the performance that we get out of these reloads and that elk load, man. I'm really jazzed about that. Rambo's about to fire off here. It's 10 o'clock, rise of the machines. He starts his normal cleaning process, but, so he's gonna run me off the floor here. But we used, so the die set that I used after I did the full length resize, so I was using the Redding dies on the full length resize. Let me get this stuff out of the floor so he doesn't, stop what he's doing. He needs to do his job. But we used the Lee collet die. Walk you guys over here to the kitchen island. Get the lights turned on. So we're using the Lee collet die, and what's really neat about this die is you're not sizing anything except the neck portion of the case. So I know there's a ton of content on YouTube now about controlling neck tension and which sizing method is the best method and what's going to provide the most consistent results and what PRS shooter is doing this, and you're stupid if you don't follow that method, or you're a caveman dragging your knuckles if you don't switch over to this method, or whatever. But in this particular case, I felt like it was a good idea to use the Lee collet die, because we'd sized our brass down, put a full length resize on it from a 308 standpoint. Then we did the exact same thing, getting a really good resize process performed with the 7mm-08 die. So we used Redding full length sizing dies for that. So already worked that brass quite a bit. And so in this particular case, and with a bolt action, you can kind of get away with this, is only sizing the neck, and that brass will go right back into your chamber, no problems, or at least in my experience, it's been no issue. I've used this die in 270 and 6.5 Creedmoor for other rifles, never had an issue with using it. So in this particular case, that's what I wanted to do, was just size the neck portion of the brass, and that's what I did on all of my test firings. After I converted all the brass, went and did my fire forming load, I came back and I used this die to then check velocity, to check accuracy. So everything is done consistently, right? All the processes are the same that I followed. So that was what I did. I used this die and set the neck tension. It was right at 2,000ths is the neck tension that we're running, and had no issues with that, no issues with chambering any of the rounds. In my opinion, that's enough for hunting purposes. I also ran several of the rounds through the through the action, ran the bolt, unloaded the rifle, the whole nine, just to check everything. There's no issue in terms of the bullet moving or anything like that. So 2000s is going to be plenty for this situation. But really great die if you're interested in using one of those. Set the neck tension consistently, 2000s for all of the rounds. And one thing I really enjoy Lee, the material that they give you with their die sets is really solid stuff. I mean, compared to other die manufacturers who just kind of tell you, hey, here's how you set up the die and all that. I mean, at least Lee gives you some load data. It is basic load data from their manual, but that is far and away better than some of the other, a lot of the other die manufacturers out there. So really good stuff here that they give you a lot of good information on their die sets. So that was what we used. We didn't do another full length resize on it. Now, once he shoots through the ammo, and then, it's like, hey, if he wants me to reload again, then I will circle back around. We'll do another full length resize on it. After that, after it's been fired again, do a full length resize, and then we'll just kind of reconfirm, verify, yes, this load still is performing well. This is still, 0.8 inch 3-shot group load, maybe better, somewhere in that range. Velocities are consistent and all that, and then we'll just, full length resize everything, load it back up. So, but that's where I want to leave it. That's sort of the follow-up video. I didn't really get any of the shooting or any of the follow-up reloading on film. It's one of those things where I was trying to get this stuff knocked out as quickly as possible, mostly because I've been holding on to this rifle for a long time, and I was trying to get this stuff done. It was travel during the summer there for a while. I was just gone quite a bit, and it was impacting my ability to get this done. And so I was really just trying to knock this stuff out and be like, okay, I've got the load done, got it dialed in, everything's good to go. Now I'm finished with this, I can turn it back over to him. So that's the position we find ourselves in now. So I'm really looking forward to this hunting season to see how everything's going to perform. I think those Speer 130s are just going to be lights out on deer. I think it's going to be a great performer. I've always wanted a 7mm-08. It's a cartridge that me and my brother have talked about a ton in the past. Hey, I think this would be an awesome cartridge to own. I've just never personally owned one, so this is the first time I've loaded for it. But if you're looking for a solid deer hunting round, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to beat the 7mm-08. It's a great overall performer, flat shooting, especially, man, when you get into hand loading and you're able to adjust the powders and all that, and you can play with overall length and bullet selection. You can really fine tune your load. 7mm-08, it's in that category. It's in the conversation, at least in my opinion, of perfect cartridges. As far as like 6.5 Creedmoor, 7mm-08, 270 Winchester, 280 Remington, kind of in that range. Those are some really awesome rounds. Underrated, in my opinion, that'll just absolutely get the job done for anything you're going to need it to do. So that's where we leave it. If you are looking for any reloading stuff, right, components, powder, you name it, make sure you hit up Mr. Big Guns in Huntsville, Alabama. Ammunition, I know, is coming in more and more. Things are factory ammunition, I know, so it's starting to hit the shelves a little more consistently. Shipments are coming in more consistently. Also check out Midway Pistol and Pawn out in Gurley. Go see Robert and Mark out there. Go check out those guys, see what they're getting in. Seems like every week, every other week, they're getting in some new stuff as well. So firearms related to, definitely check out both locations. So that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. This was the sort of the follow-up, wrap-up video. I didn't get any range footage of everything else, of all the additional testing that I did and testing loads and verifying velocities and all that. So it is what it is. But I did walk you through the conversion process, and we came out the other side with a really solid load that I think is going to be a great performer coming up this deer season. So that's it. That's all. Man, and check out the next video that I upload, because I actually, man, I've got to film I'll be filming a range trip. I did a barrel break-in on my 308 and all that, and trying to get everything posted. I've got multiple videos already filmed. It's just trying to get everything posted and uploaded. You know, I don't want to inundate you guys with like 4 videos in one day. You want to kind of spread them out a little bit so you can digest them. But yeah, just not the 308 portion, but I'm gonna need some help with 350 Legend. I'll go ahead and say it. So that's where I'll leave it. I'll catch you guys next time. Y'all have a good one.